Imagine cutting into a pie and live frogs jump out while everyone at the table claps. In the 1600s, cooks really did this. Church leaders allowed beaver meat during Lent, and royal banquets served peacocks with feathers put back on after roasting. So how did these 15 bizarre medieval foods people actually ate become normal back then? Let's uncover it. Let's start with number 1, the Franken pig roast. Imagine a roast that looks like it stepped straight out of a medieval tapestry, shining under torchlight like some royal treasure. Then you notice something deeply wrong. The body on that platter belongs to 2 different animals stitched into one. Medieval elites chase shock value at the table, and cockatrice turns dinner into a creature that feels half farmyard and half legend. Cooks stitch the front of a suckling pig onto the back half of a capon, or reverse the pairing, then slowly turn the sewn body over a roaring spit until the skin tightens and browns. They brush it with egg yolk and saffron for a golden glow, sometimes pressing thin gold leaf across the surface so it gleams like treasure. Inside, they pack rich forcemeat so every slice shows yellow and gilded flesh. And a 14th century English cookbook, The Form of Curry, already lists these hybrids in recipes linked to royal kitchens. The point reaches beyond taste, because a host who can command animals, nature, and spectacle on one platter sends a message without saying a word. And that quiet message sets the tone for what comes next, because now a river creature slides onto the royal table. Let's move to number 2, royal lamprey pies. Picture an eel-shaped fish with a round sucker full of teeth instead of a normal mouth. And now imagine several of them baked inside a thick, steaming pie meant for a king. Lampreys resemble giant leeches, yet medieval nobles prize them the way later courts prize caviar, which means danger and rarity turn into status. English cooks stew whole lampreys in wine with heavy spices and thick sauces, seal the mixture inside pastry, and serve it as a rich, dark pie. Gloucester's city leaders send a lamprey pie to the king as a formal gift, and in 1200 they pay a fine of 40 marks for failing to deliver it. Chroniclers later write that Henry I dies in 1135 after eating a surfeit of lampreys, which gives the dish a deadly legend, although modern medical historians point toward infection instead. The risk only adds to its shine, because for elites, rare plus dangerous equals power on a plate. And once you accept that logic, a peacock with its feathers still attached no longer feels impossible. Here comes number 3, peacock on a plate. You sit in a crowded hall as music fades and every head turns toward the doorway, because servants carry in a bird that appears strangely alive. Roast peacock becomes pure theater at high medieval feasts, and the cooks handle it with careful precision. They remove the skin and feathers in one piece, roast the body separately with spices and stuffing, then pin the bright hide and tail back in place so the bird stands tall on the platter. Sometimes the beak even appears to breathe fire with the help of alcohol and flame, turning dinner into spectacle. Accounts describe ladies carrying peacocks toward the high table while knights swear oaths on the peacock, tying honor to a bird that often tastes dry and tough. Flavor matters less than drama, because this course exists to stun the room. And once you see that kind of display, the next dish feels brutally plain by comparison, starting with deer guts left behind after the hunt. Next one is number 4, humble pie. Imagine nobles riding away with the finest cuts of venison while you stand nearby holding a heap of organs and hoping it fills your stomach. Umbles refers to a deer's innards, including liver, heart, kidneys, and other edible entrails that remain after the hunt's prize cuts disappear. Medieval English cooks chop those pieces, mix them with fat, herbs, and sometimes onions, then bake everything inside a sturdy pastry shell. The finished dish, called humble pie, feeds lower-status households who receive leftovers once the high table claims its share. Over time, humble pie shifts into humble pie, and the phrase "eat humble pie" comes to mean accepting humiliation, which hints at the social line built into the meal. Yet the original pie delivers iron, protein, and solid calories to people who cannot afford prime meat. Even so, meat of any kind becomes forbidden on many holy days, and that rule pushes cooks toward strange solutions. Let's move to number 5. Fish that weren't fish. You promise to avoid meat for a holy fast, then someone places fish on your plate that looks suspiciously like a small whale cut into dark slabs. Church law bans land meat on many days, so medieval cooks stretched definitions with quiet creativity. Aquatic mammals, such as whales and porpoises, slide into the fish category, especially for elites living near the sea. One 15th century English recipe even uses porpoise blood in a special blood pudding served to nobility. That loophole allows rich stews and roasts during Lent, while peasants survive on thin pottage, and the ships, crews, and long hunts behind each catch add prestige. Religion shapes the menu, yet power finds a way around restriction. And once rules start bending at sea, the alehouse begins to experiment as well. Here comes number 6. Beer with a boiled rooster. Imagine ordering a pint of ale and learning that an entire rooster helped flavor the brew, then hearing whispers that the drink stirs strength in the body. Cock ale appears in English sources by the 1600s, and one recipe gives exact instructions that sound more like a feast than a beverage. Brewers take 8 gallons of ale, boil an old rooster until tender, pound the meat with raisins, spices, and dates, then steep that mixture into fermenting ale along with strong wine. The result tastes closer to a liquid meat pie than any modern beer. Writers describe cock ale as warming and stimulating, a drink for cold nights and bold conversation, and the rooster's strength becomes part of its story. The idea of drinking an animal's power fits the era's thinking, yet heavy drinks and rich pies still share space with a pot that never truly empties, hanging over the fire day after day. Next one is number 7, forever stew. Think about one pot hanging above the hearth for most of your life, quietly bubbling while you toss in whatever food you can find. Pottage anchors daily meals for centuries, blending grains, beans, and vegetables into a thick stew that fills bowls morning and night. Peasants simmer root crops, cabbage, leeks, herbs, and occasional scraps of meat in a large cauldron, ladle some out, then top it up again so the flavor deepens over hours or even days. Later writers speak of a perpetual stew that never fully empties, especially in inns and taverns. Whether any pot truly bubbles for months remains uncertain, yet the idea captures the pressure to waste nothing in a hard world. Every bone, crust, and wilted leek earns another chance in the broth. And while some kitchens stretch food carefully, others stage tricks that make dinner jump off the table. Let's move to number 8, live frog pie. You lean forward to slice into a tall, beautiful pie meant to impress your guests, and the moment the crust cracks, live creatures spring into the air. Banquets during the medieval and early modern period often include subtleties, edible displays that hide surprises inside pastry shells. Some cooks place live birds or frogs within tall crusts so that when the top breaks open, the animals scramble across the table. Shock turns into laughter or shrieks, and the memory lasts far longer than the flavor. A modern article on elite medieval dishes describes live frog pies as part spectacle and part status move, because staging them demands staff, spare animals, and careful timing. The chaos proves the host controls even the unexpected. And if that feels outrageous, the next pie piles nearly every edible body part into one crust. Here comes number 9, Battaglia pie. Imagine a pie so massive it resembles a fortress. Then discover the filling includes coxcombs, lamb stones, ox palates, and other parts rarely mentioned at dinner. Battaglia pie rises from the 1600s English tradition that grows out of late medieval cooking, and it showcases delicacies, the prized small pieces of animals. Recipes list sweetbreads, coxcombs, marrow bones, tongues, and small game birds all packed inside a huge double crust. Nutmeg, cloves, cinnamon, rich stock, and sometimes wine flood the filling before it bakes into a heavy, fragrant mass. Confusion between battaglia and battles even inspires some pies shaped or decorated like castles, turning food into edible architecture. A whole hunt seems trapped in pastry. After that display of excess, calling a beaver tail fish almost sounds modest. Next one is number 10, beaver tails for dinner. You glance at your Lent meal and see something shaped like a leather paddle, and the priest calmly explains that it qualifies as fish. Because beavers swim and use flat tails to move through water, clergy in parts of Europe and New France classify them as fish for fasting rules. In the 17th century, a bishop in Quebec asks for guidance, and higher church authorities allow beaver meat on Fridays and during Lent. The decision blends theology with daily survival. Writers note that meat inside the tail carries an oily texture closer to fish than red meat, and late medieval drawings even show the tail with a scaly, fish-like look. Some stories claim Henry VIII enjoys black pudding with beaver tail for breakfast, mixing two extreme foods in one meal. And when blood and tail share the table, blood itself soon becomes the main course. Now you've seen how strange medieval food could get, but this list only scratches the surface. There are more secrets hiding in history. Click the next video. This story is far from over.